Yo, what's up, Plus Ultra fam? It's me, Plus Ultraman, and today we're going to continue our first Naruto What If here on the channel. I'm very proud to say this one was pretty well received, and I'm very excited to continue it. And as always, our quick recap. When we last left off, Kakashi had saved Zabuza, and the former missing ninja was instated into the leaf as a Jonin. He and Jiraiya teamed up to train Naruto for the tuning exams, where he went on to soundly defeat Neji. The Leaf Village Crush plan was still engaged, and Naruto, Sakura, Shikamaru, and Pakkun are set on their A-rank mission. We return to this timeline now. Naruto and company were in hot pursuit of Sasuke and Gaara when Pakkun warns the group they currently have 9 pursuers. The team has the same conversation in canon about a decoy, and Shikamaru makes the same statement about the decoy having to die. The big difference here is that Naruto makes a strict declaration that Shikamaru was not going to do this alone, and tells Sakura and Pakkun to go on ahead without them, which after a bit of arguing, they actually do. Shikamaru begins to make the fake tracks and tells Naruto that he would only get in his way and to go. But Naruto reveals something to Shikamaru that he was previously unaware of. He had been trained for the past month with Zabuza Momochi, a master of the silent killing technique. In other words, the ultimate ambush technique. He does, however, leave out the important fact that Zabuza hadn't really taught him any of these techniques per se. Hell, Naruto had never even killed anyone. But that didn't matter to him. Those who abandoned their comrades were worse than scum. The same situation happens with the Sound Ninja being tricked by Shikamaru, who had only planned to immobilize the enemy for Naruto in this timeline. Then, Naruto, channeling the image of Zabuza running through Gato and his men on the bridge, cleaves through all 8 Sound Ninja in an instant, having used a clone for each of them to quickly end the encounter with their kunai. The gravity of taking lives barely hit him before the clones are all dispersed by a well-aimed shuriken. Shikamaru is then captured by the 9th Sound Ninja and has a kunai placed against his throat, which causes Naruto to freeze. The situation looks extremely hopeless until a dark green blur zooms by the both of them, knocking the Sound Ninja out where he falls limply to the ground. Asuma Sarutobi makes an even cooler entrance than in canon and praises both boys, noting that Naruto and Shikamaru had worked well together and made a very good strategy. Shikamaru had saved up a lot of his chakra enough to still be useful, and Naruto was very mature in dispatching the enemy so quickly. He knew that must not have been easy at his age. Naruto shakes his head angrily and says that their job isn't over yet and begins running after Sakura and Pakkun. Asuma and Shikamaru are left there, deciding that there wasn't a valid reason for them not to go as well, since Shikamaru was still good enough to fight, and they follow after the blonde Jinchuriki. Over with Sasuke, his fight goes just about as in canon, though I think he would be just a bit more motivated, as remember, he was very impressed by Naruto's showing back at the tuning exams, and didn't get to fully beat on Gaara the way he wanted to, so he might be a bit more aggressive in the fight, but I still imagine that Gaara would overpower him. With Sasuke exhausted, Gaara moves in for the kill, just about to take the Uchiha out, when in that moment, the body of Sakura flung itself in the way of the attack to block it. Sasuke's eyes widened in fear, and summoning all the strength he could, even in the pain he was in, he moved forward as quick as he could and knocked Gaara away, collapsing from the incredible strain on his body. In this moment, he was not fueled by his hate, and you could just barely see his curse mark receding a bit. Sakura correctly realized that she could do nothing against Gaara, and begins to try to carry Sasuke away to avoid the maniac Jinchuriki following them, until finally Gaara is able to pin them both down to a tree with his arm, and slowly begins to squeeze the life out of them. That is, until he felt the control of his body taken from him, and soon his sand arms were severed. Gaara looked over to see his shadow connected to Shikamaru, and Asuma speeding by and cutting Sakura and Sasuke out of Gaara's grip, setting them on the ground and reappearing next to Naruto and Shikamaru. Shikamaru was struggling very hard to keep a hold over the redhead in front of him with the shadow possession technique, and Naruto grins, realizing this would be the chance to use the technique that Nobrow Sensei had taught him, thinking this would at least weaken Gaara's sand. He began to run through the hand signs that Zabuza had taught him, a bit clumsily: tiger, ox, tiger, rat, and blue hard, causing a decent-sized stream of water to begin flowing from him. Water style, water bullet technique. Gaara instantly understands what Naruto is trying to do. If he could soak his sand, then he'd probably weigh it down, and he didn't want this to happen. So, as soon as the stream got close to him, he called out his sand devastation jutsu, and blew most of the moisture away, making it harder for anyone to get closer, as Shikamaru's hold waned on him. Asuma then ordered he and Pakkun to move and defend Sakura and Sasuke, and if possible, get them out of the battle. Now, I do anticipate that some people would rather Asuma not be involved in the fight, as it is canonically one of Naruto's defining moments as a character. But neither Asuma nor anyone else in the story realized this. The logical move in story is for the two to work together and subdue a dangerous enemy. So with that in mind, Asuma orders Naruto to cover him as best he could, as he begins charging chakra through his trench knives and charges at Gaara. Naruto agrees to this and yells out in that oh-so-familiar hand sign, Mochi Shadow Clone Jutsu, covering the trees with about 170 copies of himself. Naruto and the clones then begin running through hand signs, and again create a huge omnidirectional gush of water to bombard Gaara as Asuma begins to try and cut into the sand, holding back almost nothing. Using his wind style ninjutsu and pure power and speed, Gaara begins trying to dodge and block most of the water and slashing attacks. But the combo move was actually very effective, and Gaara was put on the defensive. He began to pour more and more Shukaku's chakra into his sand armor and was slowly growing into the perfect possession state, where the attacks became mostly ineffective, and the two wind chakra nature users were forced to retreat. At this point, Naruto had burned through a huge amount of chakra, having to force so much into a jutsu he wasn't completely in control of yet, and summoning all those clones. Not to mention, he had fought Neji today. Asuma, realizing the gravity of the situation, grabs Naruto around the waist and slings him over his shoulder, and begins to run away, knowing that at this point, the only ones in the village who could take on the Shukaku were Master Jiraiya or his father. But he's flabbergasted when the blonde, drained of chakra and being jostled around by the running, bit into his thumb and began running through a different set of hand signs this time, and slapped his hand onto a tree they were running past. Then in the next instant, the two were sat on top of a giant toad, not Gamabunta as Naruto had been aiming to summon, but this toad was still massive and red with a huge weapon and shield. Naruto then got mad at Asuma and the giant toad and began yelling that this wasn't who he wanted, and Gamaken apologizes for being so ungraceful and introduces himself. But he doesn't dwell on this long and informs Gamaken of what's going on, with Asuma still on the toad with him. He then gives Naruto a very shocked look, holding on for dear life. So this was the skill of a student of the Sani. Naruto then orders Gamaken to charge, and the giant creatures begin to clash with each other. I assume that Gamaken would know that they need to wake Gaara up before the full possession takes place, and if he didn't, maybe Asuma would know. That being said, I don't think that Gamaken would have the exact same idea that Gamabunta had. The graceful toad explains that if they could slow Shukaku down, then he could safely get Naruto closer. The problem was Gamaken had no powerful long-range attacks of his own. He asked the two shinobi on top of his head what their chakra natures were, and Asuma quickly answers wind, but Naruto reveals that Zabuza had tested his chakra nature to be wind, but didn't teach him any wind style techniques, only the water bullet technique. Gamaken says that'll have to do, and tells him that they're going to try a joint ninjutsu. This makes Naruto panic, and Asuma gives him a crash course on how to mold his wind chakra and channel it into Gamaken. The big toad is put on the defensive while Asuma teaches Naruto, and maybe 30 seconds later, the toad begins to form hand signs, and he, Naruto, and Asuma yell out, "Wind style, toad gun!" before blasting a high pressure beam of water at Gaara and the Shukaku, which not only soaks Shukaku, but ends up punching a hole right through the Shukaku's belly, causing the demon to move back and slowly collapse in on itself. Gamaken then grabs Naruto off the top of his head and tells him to fly gracefully before full-on throwing Naruto at the exposed Gaara, where the blonde is able to land an extremely strong punch, which ends up knocking Gaara out of the Shukaku head, where they both fall to the ground. I think with Naruto not being as hurt as in canon, but still being as tired or even more so, he is able to give Gaara the same talking no jutsu, having realized the connection between he and him. The only difference is that Asuma is just kind of there. Though Asuma isn't heartless, so I don't see him or Naruto moving in to try and harm Gaara any further than this. So after this, I think Kakuro and Temari are still able to grab Gaara, and for now, the timeline is going to go mostly back to normal. But we'll leave the story here for now, guys. As I said at the beginning of this video, I'm very happy that this timeline was well received, enough for me to be able to continue it. But before we go, we have two very big announcements. Number one, the Plus Ultra Fam Discord is now under construction, so be on the lookout for where it actually goes up. And number two, I'm going to be creating a Patreon page soon, so also be on the lookout for a video concerning that. I have a lot of rewards I want to be able to give to you guys. That's all for now, guys. So as always, go beyond, plus ultra. Date bayo. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more. And thanks for watching.